Dear students, welcome to the part 1 of Unit 3 of Medium, Small and Micro Enterprise Management of 3rd BBA 6th semester. Important contents to be covered in this session are Introduction to Management Function in SMEs, Finance Function, Capital Estimation, Sources of Finance. Actually, Unit 3 consists of various management functions in SMEs, which will be discussed in the next slide, which are here. What are the major functional areas of management? There are 4 major functional areas, which are financial management, marketing management, human resource management and production management. Production management is more of a technical subject and remaining 3 are administrative related functional areas. In this unit, which means unit number 3 is about these 3 functional areas of management in small and medium enterprises. Let us look at finance management first, which is also termed as finance function. Finance function is the process of acquiring and utilizing funds of a business. Finance consists of raising, providing and managing of all the money, capital or funds of any kind to be used in connection with the business, which means finance function deals with acquiring of funds, utilization of funds and management of funds of any kind. Funds may be in monetary terms and funds may be in asset category. So whatever kind of funds are available, it consists of 3 aspects, which are acquiring, utilizing and management of funds. Now let us look at classification of finance function. There are two broad categories. First one is executive finance function and second one is incidental finance function. Now let us look at the role of executive finance function. Executive finance function consists of determination of asset management policies, estimating the allocation of net profits, estimation of cash flow requirements and control of such flows. Next one is decision making on sources of external financing, negotiations with outside financiers, reviewing financial performance. These are the major aspects to be covered in executive finance function. Executive finance function is much broader than the routine function, which means incidental function. Let us look at each category. First one is determination of asset management policies, which means what types of assets must be there in the organization and what could be the allocation for each type of asset would be discussed here. Second one is estimating the allocation of net profits. Once the net profits earned by the organization, it has to be distributed to the stakeholders or it has to be retained with the organization for further investment. Such decisions would be taken in executive finance functions. Estimation of cash flow requirements. Cash flow requirements include both cash inflow as well as cash outflow. Cash inflow would be from financing activities, investment activities, operating activities and so on. Such decisions are also part of executive finance function. Fourth one is decision making on sources of external financing. What are the major sources of external financing? There are 2 sources. One is debt and next one is equity. Third category is there, which is internal source, which can be called as investment from retained earnings. Decision making with respect to these sources could be a part of executive finance function. Next one is negotiations with outside financiers. Various outside financiers negotiation part will be held as part of executive finance function. Next one is reviewing financial performance of the organization. Taking the entire organization as a unit and reviewing the overall financial performance of the enterprise would be another major function of executive function part. Let us look at incidental finance. Incidental finance function. The incidental finance function include supervision of cash inflows and outflows and maintaining cash balances and record keeping. These are of routine functions, which include custody and safeguarding securities, insurance and other valuable papers. So what we discussed is there are 2 broad functions in finance function. One is executive functions and next one is incidental functions. Executive functions are much broader and incidental functions are routine in nature, in which first one is custody and safeguarding securities insurance and other valuable papers are also a routine task of a finance manager. And second one is administration of pension and welfare plans of employees is also part of incidental finance function. Maintenance of accounts, preparation of reports and evaluation of performance in financial terms is also part of incidental finance. Supervision of cash receipts and payments, administration of internal audit. External audit is mandatory, internal audit is up to the discretion of management, and it depends on the nature of business. The decision would be taken as part of incidental finance function. And next one is establishing financial public relations within the organization, and compliance with government regulations is also part of incidental finance function. And opening accounts and depositing funds to in banks, management of petty cash book and bank balances is also a part of incidental finance function. Now let us look at what are the broad objectives of finance function. First one is acquiring sufficient and suitable funds. Second one is proper utilization of funds. Third one is increasing profitability, and fourth one is maintaining valuation of the firm. These are the four major objectives of finance function. Every organization, irrespective of size, it has to follow these objectives to maximize the value of funds, in which first objective is acquiring sufficient and suitable funds. Once we want to start the business, once the enterprise is about to establish, we need to decide whether it has to be established with own funds or borrowed funds. If borrowed funds are included, what could be the optimum percentage of leverage? 20%, 30%, 50% or 70%, which means 30% equity and 70% debt, or 50% equity and 50% debt, 70% equity and 30% debt. What could be the proportion of funds which have to be financed to the enterprise? This has to be done in the view of maximization of value of the firm. When the value of the firm would be maximized, if the cost of funds are less, firm's value will be enhanced. By keeping in mind the acquisition of suitable funds, decision would be taken. Second one is proper utilization of funds. Once we get funds, we have many choices to invest in the market. There are plenty of projects available in the market, but the enterprise can choose one or few out of various available projects in the market. If we choose project A, we lose the opportunity to choose project B or project C or project D, because we have limited resources, whether financial resources or human resources or various resources are limited. So we cannot invest in all the projects at a time simultaneously. So most of the projects are mutually exclusive projects. So we need to select the project on the basis of maximum profitability the project is offering to the enterprise. That itself is called as proper utilization of funds. Third one is increasing profitability. Profitability is increased in two ways. First one is by maximizing the return on investment, and second one is by minimizing the cost of funds. Once we get profit, once the enterprise gets profit, there is another question whether it is better to distribute the profit to the stakeholders as shareholders as dividends, or is it better to keep a part of profit or complete profit in the organization as retained earnings for further investment. Which decision is correct? If we or the firm wants to distribute the dividends to the shareholders, how much dividend percentage would be distributed, whether 10% of the profits or 50% of the profits or 100% of the profits? This will also be seen in the view of maximizing the valuation of the firm. Whatever decisions are taken in financial management, the ultimate objective is the wealth maximization of shareholders. That means enhancing or increasing the value of the firm is the ultimate objective of finance function. Major decisions to be taken in finance. There are four major decisions will be taken in finance area, which we already discussed in second year financial management subject elaboratedly, but it is the right platform to revise these concepts as Every firm, irrespective of the size, should know about the various aspects of finance or finance related concepts. So there are four major decisions in finance. Those are investment decisions, finance decisions, dividend decisions, and working capital decisions. Working capital decisions are somehow operating related decisions, and remaining three decisions are major decisions to be taken in finance function. Let us look at investment decisions. What are the peculiar characteristics of investment decisions? Investment decisions are long term decisions and they need huge funds once the decision is taken, which cannot be revoked. Once we want to invest in a project, once we start investing after certain duration, if you find it as the wrong choice, you cannot return or you cannot get your funds back, and there would be substantial loss associated with the investment decisions. So these are very crucial decisions in finance area of any business, any enterprise, irrespective of the size. Once again, whether it is a micro enterprise or medium enterprise or small enterprise or large enterprise, irrespective of the subject, the funds we are going to invest in major projects would be very crucial. There are certain techniques to be followed while performing these investment decisions or capital budgeting decisions. These techniques can be categorized as non-discounted cash flow techniques and discounted cash flow techniques. There are two traditional methods and modern methods. In traditional methods category or non-discounting cash flow criteria, there are two methods: payback period method and accounting rate of return method. Discounted payback period method is somehow comes under discounted cash flow technique, and which is part of traditional method, so which is mentioned in the first category. So basically there are two methods. One is payback period method and second one is ARR method, accounting rate of return method, which is also called as average rate of return method. In second category, discounted cash flow category or modern category, there are three methods: net present value method, internal rate of return method, profitability index method. There are other methods also there, like terminal value method. Those are out of the syllabus now. Mostly used methods are net present value method and internal rate of return method. We need to choose the right method before taking investment decisions, and evaluation of various projects are required, out of which we need to select one or few among various available projects in the market before taking an investment decision. Second one is finance function or finance decisions. The objective of financial management is to maximize the value of the firm. As we discussed earlier, so what is the thumb rule for maximization of value of the firm? Means there are two ways. First one is high return on investment is required to maximize the value, and second one is by minimizing cost of funds we can get maximum value of the firm, in which there are various approaches. First one is we need to understand what is the cost of each funds we are going to pump in the organization. What is the cost of equity? How much return our shareholders are expecting? Second one is what is the cost of debt? What is the interest rate on funds we borrow from the market? Based on these two aspects, what is the cost of preference shares will also be there. Based on these concepts, we measure overall weighted average cost of capital of funds. If the WACC or weighted average cost of capital is less, that means cost of funds are less. If the WACC is more, the cost of funds are more. Suppose we are infusing 25% preference shares, 25% equity shares, and remaining 50% debt in the market. What is the cost of each funds? And by totaling these all elements, we can get WACC. If the overall cost of capital, overall weighted average cost of capital is less, which means cost of funds are less. If it is more, cost of funds are more. There are other approaches to measure this capital structure decisions. Those are EBIT EPS approach, ROE and ROI approach. EBIT EPS means, so what kind of combination of capital structure? Capital structure is nothing but combination of debt and equity in the organization. What combination gives us least cost of funds will be calculated, and based on that decisions will be taken in finance. When it comes to the theories, there are 4 theories basically, which are divided into 2 categories: modern approaches and traditional approach. Modern theories and traditional theories. In modern theories category, there are 3 theories: net income approach, net operating income approach, and approach, Modigliani-Miller approach. In traditional theory, there are only 1 theory, traditional approach. These theories can be categorized as relevant theories and irrelevant theories. Net income approach and traditional approach are relevant theories. Net operating income approach and approach are irrelevant theories. What do you mean by relevant theories and irrelevant theories? Valuation of the firm is dependent on capital structure of the firm. If this statement is true, the theory is called as a relevant theory, which means valuation of the firm is dependent or relevant on capital structure of the firm, which means debt equity ratio. And the second concept is valuation of the firm is not dependent on the capital structure of the firm. These theories are called as net operating income approaches and Modigliani-Miller approach. These 2 are irrelevant theories. These 2 prove that valuation of the firm is not dependent on capital structure of the firm. So we had a detailed discussion about these theories in financial management in second year. So we are just touching or revising these topics. Now let us consider the third decision. So far we discussed about investment decisions and finance decisions. Now the dividend decisions. Once the firm gets profits, is it better to retain it in the organization, enterprise, or is it better to offer it to the shareholders? That is a major decision to be taken by the firms. If the decision is to retain the entire funds in the organization, what will happen? If there are plenty of opportunities available to the enterprise for reinvestment, and the growth of reinvestment is more, or the profit we can get by reinvestment is more, it is better to keep it with us. If there is no such opportunity prevails, obviously it is better to distribute it to the public or shareholders. But there is another problem. Availability of liquid funds is also a constraint. This legal formalities and legal structure is also, regulations is also a kind of hurdle for these dividend policies. But what are the various types of dividend policies in general will be discussed here. A regular dividend policy, which means some companies practice that regular dividends will be paid to the shareholders, so that they have an opportunity to invest it somewhere else or in the same company with the dividend amount. It is their wish to go for it. And second one is stable dividend policy. A certain percentage of dividend on profits will be announced regularly, whether it is 10% or 20% or 30%. Every year 30% of the profits will be distributed, or 10% of the profits will be distributed as dividends. This is another type of dividend policy. And third one is irregular dividend policy. Once you get profit, huge profit, based on that you will distribute the dividends. Once you don't get that much huge, obviously it is the discretion of management whether to keep it in the organization or it has to be distributed to the shareholders. It is completely irregular in the sense there is no standard format. Based on the profitability of the firm, every year the dividend policy would be changed. Fourth one is there is no dividend policy. Every year the company won't announce any dividends to the investors. They just want to reinvest it in the organization. So if such policy is adopted by the companies, this is called as no dividend policy. Now let us look at various theories of dividends. How much we need to retain in the organization, how much profit we have to retain in the organization, and how much profit we need to distribute to the shareholders. How to take this typical decision? There are 3 approaches, 3 theories available for such crucial decision making areas, which are Walters model, Gordon's model, and approach. out of which again 2 theories are relevant theories and 1 theory is irrelevant theories. What relevant theories say? Relevant theories say that the valuation of the firm is not dependent on dividend distribution policy. How much the company earns matter, but how much the company distributes to the investors is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the valuation of the firm. That itself is called as irrelevant theory. If the dividend distribution is dependent on, if the valuation of the firm is dependent on dividend distribution, that itself is called as relevant theory. First two theories, Walter theory and Gordon theory are relevant theories, and Modigliani and Miller approach is irrelevant theory. Well, let us look at a fourth decision, which is working capital decision. What do you mean by working capital? As I said, there are two definitions for working capital. First one is the entire current assets total is called as gross working capital. Then what is net working capital? The excess balance of current assets over current liabilities can be termed as net working capital. Why this working capital is required? The working capital is required to operate the business on regular basis. It completely depends on the what kind of expenses we made, what kind of obligations are there during operating cycle of the business. So let us look at the literature. There are three methods of establishing or analyzing the requirements of working capital of a company, which are percentage of revenue or sales, how much percentage of revenue is kept aside for smooth running of the business. Second one is regression analysis, where mathematical model is applied to the working capital needs, and third one is operating cycle method, how much funds are needed for general operating cycle of the business. These three are general methods to be followed by estimating working capital needs of the organization. Generally, operating cycle method is the most relevant and most widely used method out of these three. So working capital is needed to meet the following purposes. First one is for purchase of raw material we need money, payment of wages and workers we need liquid cash, for payment of day-to-day expenses we need cash, for maintenance expenditure also we need cash. To meet these obligations, working capital is required, and remaining portion will be kept as investment so that it can generate further revenue to the organization. Funds which are kept aside for working capital cannot generate positive returns, so there must be an optimal percentage of amount to be allocated for working capital needs. If it is less, the credibility of the institution or enterprise will be in trouble. If it is more, entrepreneurs miss the right opportunity to invest and get positive returns on that. So it is double-edged swords. We need to maintain the right amounts of working capital in the organization for smooth functioning of the business. So working capital estimation, we already discussed about it. So what are the various sources of working capital? Spontaneous sources, short-term sources, and long-term sources. There are three categories. In spontaneous sources, that trade credit is available, creditors, bills payable, note payable. In short-term category, tax provisions and dividend provisions are used. In long-term category, trade deposits, bill discounting, short-term loans, working capital needs, intercorporate bonds, commercial paper, and bank overdrafts will be utilized. Now, what are the various sources of finance? Here again, there are three sources. First one is long-term sources of finance, second one is medium-term sources of finance, and third one is short-term sources of finance. Let us look at what are the various instruments available in long-term sources of finance. Share capital or equity capital, preference share capital or preference shares, retained earnings, which is an internal source, or internal accruals, which is also called as internal accruals. Fourth one is debt source, which means debentures or bonds. Next one is also a debt securities, term loans from financial institutions, government and commercial banks, venture capital funds, which is again equity source, asset securitization, international financing by way of euro issue, foreign currency loans, ADRs and GDRs. All these are again equity instruments. These are long-term sources. When it comes to the medium sources, preference share capital for medium term, debentures and bonds for medium term, lease financing for for medium term, high purchase finance for medium term, and medium term loans and financial institutions, governments and commercial banks. These are the various medium term loans available, medium term source of finance available to the enterprise. And when it comes to the short term source of finance, trade credit, factoring services, bill discounting, advances receivable from customers, short term loans like working capital loans from commercial banks, fixed deposits for less than 1 year, and receivables and payables. These are the various sources of finance. Long term source of finance, medium term source of finance, and short term source of finance. Long term sources of finance are those where the duration is more than 5 years. If the duration of funds is between 1 year and 5 years, they are termed as medium term source of finance. If the duration of funds is less than 1 year, they are called as short term source of finance. This is basically about various sources of finance available in the market. So these are the concepts we covered in session 1 in part 1 of unit 3. About remaining functional areas and part of finance functional area will be discussed in further sessions. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Thank you.